Thank you so much for joining in. Let us just wait for a couple of seconds so that all of the participants who have been attending with us since morning can join this lovely panel discussion that we are holding you for today. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. So with that, I think, Parikshit sir, I should go ahead and start today's panel discussion, if you may allow.
Please go ahead.
All right. So first of all, a good evening to everybody who has joined us today. And I see lots of numbers increasing in the participants area. But first of all, a very warm welcome from the entire team of Mindler. And today we have a brilliant panel of distinguished personalities who will be sharing their insights on the topic of emerging world of modern age non-STEM careers for today's colloquium. And it's my pleasure to introduce them to you all. Our first panelist today with us is Professor Vijayan Emmanuel. Professor Vijayan has the unique leadership expertise in both academic and corporate context. He holds a PhD from the prestigious Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore. He has served for over 20 years at NIT Karnataka in various academic research and administrative leadership roles. He also served as Vice President at IT giant HCL Technologies Limited. A highlight was the Silver Award he received for the collaborative program, HCL Harvard Emerging Leaders Program. Having held leadership position in 3 universities, Professor Vijayan is passionately engaged in establishing Vidyashilp University, with the vision to raise competent and industrious leaders who will build a progressive society. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Moving ahead with us, we have Dr. Jamshed Bharucha. Dr. Jamshed Bharucha, the founding Vice Chancellor of Sai University, is the President Emeritus of Cooper Union, New York. His previous position include Provost and Senior Vice President, Tufts University, Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences, Dartmouth College, Fellow Center for the Advanced Study in Behavioral Sciences, Stanford University, and visiting scholar at Harvard University, Stanford, and Carnegie Mellon University. An alumnus of Yale University, Warsaw College, and Trinity College of London, he also completed his PhD in psychology at Harvard University. He has done extensive research in cognitive psychology and neurosciences, focusing on the cognitive and neural basis of perception of music. He is a recipient of the Distinguished Achievement Award by Alumni and Alumni of Warsaw College and Huntington Teaching Award by Dartmouth College. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Our third panelist with us is Dr. Ananya Mukherjee. Dr. Ananya Mukherjee is Vice Chancellor of Shiv Nada University, situated in New Delhi, India. Shiv Nada University, recognized as the Institute of Eminence by the Government of India, and it is the youngest institute to receive this recognition. Attracted by this opportunity to lead such an institution, Dr. Mukherjee returned to India after spending more than 2 decades in 2 of the largest universities in Canada, University of British Columbia and York University. Dr. Mukherjee obtained her PhD from the University of Southern California, USA, and her BA and MA degrees in economics from Javadpur University, India. Her scholarship focuses on international development and sustainable development goals, particularly in India and South Asia, and her current research examines the role of universities and the Sustainable Development Goal framework. This project is being undertaken in collaboration with UN Research Institute for Social Development, Geneva. Before joining Shiv Nada University, Dr. Mukherjee was Provost and Vice President, Academic University of British Columbia, Onakagan, and she was also Dean of Faculty of Liberal Arts and Professional Studies at York University, Toronto. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. Last but not the least, our next panelist with us is Dr. Sunil Rai. Dr. Sunil Rai is the Vice Chancellor of University of Petroleum and Engineering Studies. A veteran academician, he has a vast experience of about 42 years, with 20 years in academics, 21 years with the Indian Navy, and 2 years in corporate world. Prior to joining UPES, he was the Vice Chancellor of MIT Arts and Designs, Technology University, Pune, and Director on Board of Maharashtra IT Corporation, Government of Maharashtra. Dr. Rai holds a PhD in Business Continuity Management from BITS Pilani, MTech in Computer Sciences and Engineering from IIT Mumbai, MBA from HR Specialization from IGNOU, and he also holds a Master's in Marine Engineering from Naval College of Engineering, Shivaji Lonavala, BSc Honours degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Dr. Rai has been rated as the best faculty for over 8 years in succession at national and foreign campuses. He has been eclectic mix of management, engineering, performing arts as part of his professional journey, and his research interests comprise of technology-enabled, people-driven change, management, and organizational development. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and we're really looking forward for your thoughts. The stage is all yours, Parikshit sir.
Thank you, Aishwarya. I once again welcome our esteemed guests, Dr. Mukherjee, Dr. Rai, Dr. Vijayan, Dr. Barucha. I welcome you all on behalf of Mindler, an international certified career coach program. Dear participants, you've been with us since morning, and I believe many of you have just joined us from different institutions. Thank you so much for being with us. When we are talking about, before I open the panel and we hear opening remarks from our esteemed guests, let me share something with you. In the morning, during my first session, when I was talking about there was a time in the world, a mindset that we had, all the intellectuals and the so-called brilliant people would look at sciences, and the ones who were not good for anything would look at arts, and somewhere hanging in the middle was commerce. We used to think like that. I'm not saying everyone, but that was the kind of a concern. It was like a social status or a society. And of course, then we talked about STEM, then STEM, now we talk about STEAM. And arts is a big, big component here. Today, we are lucky and fortunate that we have esteemed vice chancellors of modern age universities, where we're going to be talking about
I believe there is some technical glitch at Parikshit sir's end. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So I said, Dr. Vijayan, let's hear your opening remarks on the topic.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening to all. While we say STEM and non-STEM, I have to make this honest statement that I have a problem when somebody says non-STEM. I think that's not a good way to address it, but I understand the context. I think we shouldn't identify something as beautiful as non-STEM and say it is non-STEM. Okay. So that's my opening statement, that while we understand the context, albeit we understand what we're talking about, and particularly in our Indian context, and even in the West, a tendency to talk about engineering and talk about arts as completely divorced in terms of even careers. My opening statement is just that I want to encourage all educators that as we move into emerging contexts of scholarship first and work, we should be encouraging our students not to think in these differentiations, but to rather think of a domain they love and they get deep into that domain, and also recognize they need the help and support of associated domains to excel in what they're doing. So we will talk about this, but I thought I'll underline my statement that I look at all domains as they stand independently and beautifully. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Rai.
Thank you, Parikshit, and my respect to all the esteemed panelists. I was just thinking when I got this brief for the topic that we are going to discuss today. Now, look at our Sanatan or the Indian knowledge system, and also look at the Greek knowledge systems. All the philosophers, saints, sages, all those who have brought this great knowledge to the mankind, there was no demarcation of science, technology, astronomy. They were all philosophers. Whether it was Aristotle, whether it was Archimedes, all these were, or our saints and sages, they were all philosophers. They have, of course, come up with equations to whether it was Charak or for medical sciences. And so I think somewhere down the line, we actually diluted this whole term of knowledge and tried to compartmentalize it into engineering, science, technology, arts, and XYZ. So I echo my sentiments, what Dr. Vijayan said, that frankly speaking, knowledge is knowledge. And so there are only two things in my mind. One is a student of knowledge who wants to pursue knowledge, and the other one is who doesn't. So there are the only two differentiations and categories as per me. And I have found in my life that people who have impressed and people who actually make difference to society have come from non-STEM, though of course that's the word which Dr. Emmanuel would not like us to use, but it is just in the context. So therefore, I would encourage all the students to look at knowledge, to pursue what they would love to do, and then I think every knowledge is same. So I am with Dr. Emmanuel in trying to bring down all the walls between these kind of demarcations and call it learning or knowledge. Dikshan.
Thank you, Dr. Rai. Dr. Mukherjee, your opening remarks, please.
Thank you. I'm delighted to join this panel, and I see we have 250 participants. So welcome to all of you. So Dr. Vijayan stole my opening line without asking me. So I will not repeat it, but absolutely, we cannot continue to keep calling things non-STEM. And since I'm talking to educators, I'm sure they know that our students, our youth right now, are several years ahead of us, and they are clamoring for education that encourages their creativity, that helps them to solve problems, that helps them to, think out of the box. These are the things that students are asking for, and these are the need of the hour when we look at things like climate change or any related issue of social diversity, income inequality, any of those all require multidisciplinary perspectives. And one of my abiding attraction to coming back to India and to Shiv Nadar University was that we have built a curriculum which is absolutely multidisciplinary. There is no STEM, non-STEM education. There's a domain expertise, as Dr. Vijayan said. Beyond that, every student has to take common core curriculum and electives that give them that multidisciplinary breadth. And that's what I would like educators to encourage in our, or when our students come with that demand, to encourage that and not say, but you have to choose a career. What is going to happen? How much are you going to get paid? To slightly go away from that discourse. So I'll stop there and wait for your question.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee. Dr. Barucha.
Thank you. Well, I wholeheartedly agree with the panelists who preceded me. It is just so heartwarming to see this transformation in India, a nation that is now the breeding ground for the talent of the world. When I was a kid growing up in Bombay, long time ago, India was hopeless and nobody had any confidence in what we could accomplish. Today, India is seen as the source of talent in the world, but our education system, particularly our higher education system, has not done justice to the tremendous talent among the youth in this country. And half of the college-age students in the world are in India. And that's why I returned to India after 40 plus years in the US, because this is India's time. We need to leverage the talent we have rather than trying to fit them all into these very, very specific boxes. Either you do this, or you do that, or you do that, or you're a failure. Knowledge has expanded so exponentially. It has crossed all of these boundaries of the traditional subjects and disciplines. Furthermore, I come at this from my professional field, which is cognitive neuroscience, no two brains are identical. No two kids have exactly the same abilities, interests, talents. Let us listen to our children more and lecture at them less. And when you do that, you hear what really makes them tick. And then let's design our system of education, our curriculum, our pedagogy, to enable each child to develop to the fullest the talents and interests that he or she has. Obviously, there are constraints. Obviously, people want to know what job do I get at the end of this. All of those are important issues, and I'm sure we will discuss them in this. But that is my view. The future of the Indian economy, I believe, the dynamism of the economy depends upon new ideas, new innovations, not old ones. The curriculum, unfortunately, particularly in STEM, but in all fields, is still so rigid. These, I'm sorry to say, but obsolete board exams, entrance exams that recycle the same textbook questions from previous years. But when you go into a company, they're not going to give you a textbook problem, right? There's no value addition to the economy of having companies, be they STEM or non-STEM, simply regurgitate the same things. So actually taking full advantage of the spectrum of talent of our kids from the artists to the humanists to the ones who are interested in social sciences and technology, and the infinite combinations of those things, music and data science, visual arts and artificial intelligence, all of these things put together, there's an infinite number of innovations waiting to spark our economy and become the leaders of innovation in the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bharucha. Dr. Vijayan, picking up especially that line when he said that, this is India. Dr. Vijayan, can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, there is some technical issue that I'm facing at my end, okay? So I was saying, when I picked up Dr. Bharucha's line, of course, he shared so much with us, but he also talked about that this is India's time and there is a lot that needs to change in the Indian higher education. My point is, Dr. Vijayan, where are we seeing this change? Why? Because for the longest time, we've had compartmentalized education. And it's not that it has disappeared all of a sudden. We still have tons of pockets where it is still very clear. It is like out of 15 batches in 11th and 12th, you would still have 13 picking up science and 2 commerce and humanities non-existent. So my question to you is, where are we seeing this change and why this change is being brought in?
Let me just turn it a little bit towards the faculty, because obviously it's the academicians and faculty who create the academics, the programs in higher education. I think a very pleasant change is that we are willing to work together with different disciplines, and there's a greater appreciation. We are learning. For instance, I come from the engineering side, so I'm as straight as a stem. So, but the beauty of working with, let's say, the design faculty and trying to learn about both pedagogical approaches as well as how things come together, in my mind, wherever universities are progressing, even the list of universities that we have right here on our panel, a common thread would be faculty working together. I'm sure the panelists will see that. So we are moving away from this territorial kind of warlord mindset that this is my lab and this is my department into this is knowledge and we'll put together. And I think this is a very positive sign. And we being a very new university, I think, Professor Barucha is also with SAI about a year or plus into it. What we have done is we have asked faculty to co-develop courses, just get into that culture. And so we've got, for instance, just an instance where I see changes, and this is not just about Vidyashilp, but I see it happening everywhere, and something really wonderful, where faculty are coming together and putting courses together to give the student a better advantage. As an instance, a faculty of data science at Vidyashilp and faculty of design studies have put together a course on visualizing data for storytelling, which is open to everyone. And you will hear these kind of courses from many, many universities in our country, and this is fantastic.
Thank you. Dr. Mukherjee.
Yes.
I mean, as Dr. Vijayan talked about, that he comes from an engineering side also. So are students today more receptive towards, if I may call it, if not non-STEM, can I call it, are students more receptive towards non-science programs?
Yes. So again, I won't say science, non-science, but what I definitely see that students who are taking, say, science and engineering are very receptive to a broader education and a basis in humanities and social sciences. And those who are in the humanities and social sciences are very keen on learning coding. Any student who wants to learn coding can come from any discipline, right? So when we talk to our students about, going through our multidisciplinary, or when we ask them that what is the single most valuable thing you got from your university journey, uniformly we hear the multidisciplinary education. And whether they are engineers, economists, or somebody doing English literature, that's the one thing we hear. So somewhere when these students go for higher studies or go into education or go into their jobs, they see, and they say that we see that we are placed really at an advantage, as Dr. Barucha was saying, that the problems that come to them are not disciplinary domain-based problems. The problems are real-life problems, right? So I feel that students are absolutely clamoring for a holistic education, whatever domain they choose. Is the demand for engineering in India going to go away anytime soon? No. But there'll be a creation of different kinds of engineers, different kinds of humanists, I think. And India is so ideally poised to lead this revolution that I feel really hopeful about that.
Thank you. Dr. Rai. Dr. Rai, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
If we look at three most important exams in the Indian context, IIT JEE, NEET, and now, of course, CUET, we are looking at close to about 49-50 lakh students just writing these three exams. All right. And then, of course, thanks to modern universities like yours, the ones that are on the panel, and of course, few more, thanks to that, there's a lot that's changing at the higher education level. So my question to you, Dr. Rai, is that when you have close to 50 lakh students taking only these three exams, there is a lot of work that we need to do at the school level, right? Now, so my question to you is, how are our universities helping schools or helping the K-12, in order to be ready for this important transition for them? So I'd like to know your points, your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks, Prikshit. So it's wonderful. I am reading the comments which the panelists are actually putting on, and that's making my job easier to answer this question. I think this whole thing, and Dr. Ananya also talked about it, this whole thing is about the mindset. Dr. Jamshed also spoke about it. See, there are people involved. So it starts from the family, and then it goes to school, and then it comes to college and industry, and so on and so forth. Why there are so many students applying for these exams that you said is because children are under pressure first from the parents. And you in your opening remark did say, science wala hai, to 5-star hai, non-science hai, to nahi hai. Now we start discriminating between children right from that age. This guy wants to become a chef. I think the whole society will come heavy on this particular person. So I think this mindset change has to take place with parents, with families. And then, of course, school is the right place where this should happen so that children can understand. So what we do is, as a part of our outreach, and I do take part in a lot of these exercises. I was with the St. Patrick's Academy here in Dehradun the other day, and with several other institutions that my team sends me, and then I talk to. I always insist that rather than talking to the teachers and the children, which of course I love to, I would like to talk to the parents. And I continue this whenever either I'm at the airport or when I'm at the railway station or where, and then of course I get a remark from my friends that abhi bhi teacher bana hua hai idhar pe. I said basically the training has to be that of society. Please allow the child to discover himself or herself, and then everything will be solved thereafter. And of course, later on, I will share with you as to what we are doing in this in our university to take care of that. But I think as educators and as people, responsible people in the society, I think we must talk to everyone and tell that, as Dr. Jamshed said, that every child is a unique creation of the God Almighty. They all come with their respective, what if, I was just telling this morning, what if Guru Dronacharya taught archery to Bhim and, the Gada to Arjun, the whole thing would have, the Pandavas would have never won that battle. But it was the interest of these students. And as Dr. Mashalkar says, the greatness is that the teacher has to find that spark and that joy in the student and help that student to achieve that. And that is what is, and that's right from parents. School teachers, very importantly, and all of us in the society must start working towards that mindset that the center of all this is the child. The center of all this is actually happiness in the world, and therefore rest everything is secondary. Fiction.
Thank you, Dr. Rai. Dr. Barucha, picking up from where Dr. Rai talked about mindset, okay, that was very important. And you, in your opening remarks, also talked about the blurring of lines between so-called non-STEM and STEM, or sciences and pure sciences. My question to you is, you're also leading a very modern university. So where do you see the future? When we talk about the blurring of lines, so where do you see Indian education, higher education future now?
Well, in the immediate context, clearly in India, not all high school students and parents are going to see the value of the kind of thing we're talking about. But I think there's already a critical mass. India has such large number of students, even if right now a tiny percentage wants and is dreaming about the kind of education we are offering, that itself would be transformational. And I know that's true everywhere I travel. There are always a few students, they may be good students, but who just feel dissatisfied, like they're very cynical about the higher education system. The whole thing about mugging for the board exams, mugging for the entrance exams, then they're so exhausted by the time they start college and they bunk the classes knowing they can just wait until mugging for the final exams and get that degree. And I can tell you from cognitive neuroscience, now there's a mountain of research on how the brain learns. And the lecturing, mugging, high stakes exams model does not correspond to how the brain learns. The learning is not enduring, it's not sustainable, it does not transfer to the kinds of things they will encounter in their professional life or their personal life. Just think about the exams that you may have passed or done well in. If I were to give you that exam today, how would you do? Okay, so there's something profoundly and deeply wrong. The brain evolved over hundreds of millions of years to learn by exploring its environment. Okay, exploring its physical environment, its social environment, in this case, its intellectual environment. And from the day the child is born, it is basically, it's probing, it's asking questions, it's seeing how people respond, how the world responds to it. In my field, the development of the child is referred to as the naive scientist. The child is basically testing the world and learns in that way. So now to tell the child, be quiet, just sit down in a corner. I will tell you because I am the elder and I have this experience. I will tell you, you write it down, you mug it up, you spit it back, is not just not doing justice to the child, it is actually undermining the child. What I found is today, after the first time that I can remember, and probably for the first time in centuries in India, there is a critical mass of high school students and parents who want something different. And when they see this kind of education, they jump at it. That's also one reason why so many of our students want to go abroad. Now, there are many reasons they want to go abroad. We understand that. But I believe one of them is now with the internet, the kids know that the university experience will be very different. Just one last thing. When parents ask, how is my kid, my child is interested in music or my child is interested in literature, how is that child going to get a job? Now, I hope we take that up in this discussion, but I can tell you that there are many kids who are interested in something in an art or humanities or something, or in the social condition of society, and are also adequately good in data science or programming and so on and so forth. There are unlimited ways to combine those things, okay? Public health, we just have gone through a pandemic and we have had a terrible problem with good data and good data analytics on the spread of the disease. So if you're interested in health, why should getting the NEET exam and going to medical school be the only way in which you can contribute to health? You can follow your passion for health, and combine it with data science or public policy about health. In my case, in school, fortunately, I loved science, so I had no problem with pressure to go into science. I loved physics, but I also loved music. And people told me you can't do both. Well, guess what? I did both in my career. I studied how the brain responds to music. When all of these kids download music onto their smartphones, it's digital. It was the result of combining computer science with music. When they watch video or TV, it's all digital, same thing. So there's a big misunderstanding that somehow you have to choose and you can't find synergies.
Thank you, Dr. Barucha. And I must tell you, when we are listening to all of you, and I saw that in one of the remarks also, it is so comforting that our students are in safe hands with modern universities, bringing about a paradigm shift in the way we're looking at education. Dr. Vijay, back to you again. I don't want to miss this opportunity that all of you are here. If you could tell us about the path-breaking programs at your universities, okay? So my request to all four of you, if you could just kind of give us a snippet of what's happening, what kind of programs are being made available at your universities. Dr. Vijayan, let's start with you, please.
Well, there are new programs. Not sure whether it's path-breaking, hopefully. But what I would like to say is that, which was mentioned earlier, is to provide multidisciplines, which is required. And therefore, for instance, we have a program which we have designed with great passion. It's a design program in communication design. And it also takes into account the entire digital content economy. And out there, there's a lot of need for communication design in the digital content economy. So this communication program, just design program, for instance, is not the conventional graphics or visual, but it focuses very heavily on content. It goes into social spaces. It goes into sustainability. So there's a lot of other things. And at the end of the day, in all our programs, a key component that we bring in, so I would say that is required everywhere as path-breaking, is that there's a lot of citizenship, conscientious citizenship embedded into the development of these youngsters. So that, I would say, is one such program. We also want to provide opportunities, as I mentioned earlier. While we talk about multidisciplines, we talk about breaking pathways, I do just want to emphasize again that the faculty really holds the key to that. If faculties can step beyond their circles, I'm sure students will see that. And so, pardon me for repeating this, but because I belong to where, a very siloed approach, and we have to break away from that and learn to work with other faculty. And then the students and faculty working like this is going to be a path-breaking approach in universities.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vijayan. Dr. Mukherjee, by the way, someone asked, we have already shared Dr. Vijayan is Vice Chancellor at Vidyashilp University. Dr. Mukherjee is at Shiv Nadar University, Dr. Sunil Rai at University Petroleum Energy Studies, Dehradun, and Dr. Jamshed Bharucha is Sai University. Dr. Mukherjee, over to you for your programs, please.
Yes, so as I mentioned before, our whole curriculum, whatever program you take, is structured in this way. It is multidisciplinary. It's a 4-year degree. We were one of the first in the country to launch the 4-year degree, which is multidisciplinary. And it's a research degree. So every student is taught to do research from the very beginning. And so all our programs are like that. On top of that, we also allow these major minor combinations, which then the student can take. And we have some trailblazing students who've taken combinations like in electrical engineering and history. And you can imagine that a person who graduates with that kind of a combination will have a grasp of so many different things. And we are beginning to look at some new areas. We have a design program, but it's being relaunched now as an integrated bachelor's master's. And this is going to be, we're going to bring more of those integrated bachelor's masters and some even integrated undergraduate PhD for just to build that research view. So, and then we have one of the few undergraduate business programs, which now has an entrepreneurship course built right into it. So if a student actually wants to pitch an idea, and if that is considered worthwhile, then we provide the support for the student to actually launch the idea. We have a incubation center right on campus. So the entrepreneurship aspect, whether it's in science or engineering or even in the humanities, is very big for us. And the outcomes that we're seeing, that with our 4-year research degrees, students are securing admission into PhD programs in some of the world's top universities, which speaks to their preparedness in and also doing very well. So our programs are in the 4 areas: and sciences, engineering, social science and humanities, and management and entrepreneurship. And within this, the curriculum is structured in this way, as I explained, an infinite number of combinations of major and minor are possible. And this year, I can't announce it yet on Zoom, we are coming with some new programs, which we will announce in our new admissions launch very soon. which will all be interdisciplinary and in this realm of, creativity with entrepreneurship and new forms of pedagogy.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee, and we really look forward to these programs. My favorite line these days is, "Our kids are spoiled for choices." We didn't have those many choices when we were, graduating.
One thing I want to say, because I have to sign off, you had asked, are universities helping schools? No, universities and schools have to be working in an ecosystem, but we are not yet. We're still in silos, and it's kind of linear. We think it's going to be a linear transition from school to university, but since we have, almost 300 educators here, that's my appeal, that let's find ways where universities and schools become a part of a very integrated ecosystem and work towards that.
Dr. Mukherjee, I know you have a hard stop at 6, and we will, the other members, we will still stretch it to another maybe 10 minutes. Just one last question before you go is, now today, just like engineering and medicine, we also talk about design, psychology, media, hospitality, sustainability, music, performing arts, applied arts, so many things coming up. If you were to predict what are the next 10 careers of the future, when I'm saying careers of the future, meaning areas like design, psychology, and so on and so forth, what is your take on what are few careers that you're betting on?
So you mentioned I think 6 of those. So design, communications, health, interdisciplinary health, I think has no end. That area of research, teaching, it's unlimited. And the other is, on the natural sciences around areas of genetics and the cross between genetics and philosophy, areas like bioethics. And any area related to the issue of climate change writ large, the not just narrowly conceived green jobs, but the ability to think about climate change, all these would be careers. So design, communication, anything related to climate change, cognition, neuroscience, and health. Those are the areas where I think we have tremendous possibility and need both.
Thank you. Dear participants, if you're listening to our panelists, we did a session on modern age careers in the morning, and just look at what kind of a conversation we are having. Dr. Rai, over to you now to talk about some amazing programs at your university.
And so we being part of the self-funded university system, a lot of it is dictated by the market. जो बिकता है, that we have to sell, honest submission. So obviously it's like I for one know that we need all that Dr. Ananya talked about. So we have a program in sustainability, very few takers. Then of course in liberal studies and psychology and things like that, few takers. But we are at it. So I would not like to talk more about the programs. So programs are dictated by what is being sold, because the decisions are made, if I'm allowed to talk about it a little colloquially, 2 mamas talking, and then they decide what will the child do. The first one says, mine has taken civil engineering. The second one says, mar jayega, bachcha tera. Ask him to take AI, ML, data sciences, because neighbor ke ladke ne wo liya hai. So this is the way the society is still taking decisions. But notwithstanding all that, we are of course including programs in biomimicry. We are doing programs in robotics. We are doing program in EVs and so on and so forth. So there are programs. But what I would like to just mention here is that while that market may decide, but how we do it is something that we can decide. So there are a few experiments which we have done at the university, paying us huge dividend. I would like to share with the august panelists here. And I'm impressed by the kind of chat sessions which the participants are putting. I would like to quote Samuel here, who said, can we tell children to make passion their profession? I agree with him 100%. And towards that end, what we have done is that we have created something called School for Life. Now, School for Life is actually a school which runs across all the disciplines. And it took some task for me to convince my faculty. We have removed 48 credits from the 168 credits of engineering, and devoted to school for life in three aspects. One is on life skills, 15 credits. Other one is on what we call differentiating skills, which is the breadth of the program. Like everybody, irrespective of the program, must go through artificial intelligence, machine learning, data sciences, whether you're going to be a lawyer, whether you're going to be a designer or whatever. And the third courses is something which is we call it exploratory. Now, a child from engineering can take courses from law, can take courses from any other. And these are 18 credits, well justified. However, if you do take it in a particular order, then you get another minor. So you get a specialization from your parent school, and you can get a minor from, so a design student can do a minor in law from that speaking. So in that sense, it becomes something what we call as design your own degree or DYOD. So this is one experiment which students are liking, and so is the industry. The second one is all students of UPS at the end of first year, irrespective of program, have to go for a compulsory 6 weeks internship with an NGO and work with the problems in the society. Because unless you are exposed to the real India and Bharat as they call it, you will not be able to develop that passion, empathy, and feeling for other human beings. All students are saying, sir, why only after first year? Children want to go after second year also and third year also. But we have divided like that. At the end of first year, I'm talking of 4-year program, go for social internship. At the end of second year, go for an entrepreneurship internship with a startup. And just try and find out so that Atmanirbhar Bharat and things like that. And third year internship is the regular internship. So what comes out from this one, and to couple it with this, is that we have said arts, painting, sports, literature, poetry, and all that are not extracurricular. They are curricular. So should you invest your time in it, you will be given due credits. And children are liking it, whether it's adventure or things like that.
Great.
And so with this, now we have got 3 pillars. I have requested all my deans and they have kindly obliged me. Last semester for 8-year program is the students can, so there's no studies in the last semester. You can choose any of these tracks. Either you get into internship, where you want to already join a domain that you are going to spend your life, or you pick up entrepreneurship. We will help you incubate the idea, we will fund you and things like that. And the third one is research. Should you want to get into a research and go for higher studies, and children are taking like that. So we are combining a lot of science and non-science as a way of life. And I keep telling my students that Rabindranath Tagore, when he used to get sick of writing poetry, he used to do maths. And he was an excellent mathematician, as the legend has it. And similarly, Swami Vivekananda was an excellent cricketer. In fact, he was an excellent all-rounder. He took 9 wickets in one of the matches in Calcutta before he became Swami. So why I'm mentioning this is that we have created a good mosaic given, and to tease you a little more, yes, children these days are really lucky to make their choices of what they want to do, when they want to do, with who they want to learn, and so on and so forth. So I think these experiments, though bold, I mean, removing 48 credits from an engineering program, you can understand what I would have faced with my deans. But thanks to them that we have obliged, and all these things are working. Friction.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rai. That's a very, very exhaustive list. Dr. Bharucha, please tell us about the revolution that you're bringing in at your university.
Thank you. Well, I'll make 3 points. The first is that we have created a unique combination of schools with lots of interconnections between them. A school of computing and data science, a school of arts and sciences, and a school of law. Now in India, typically computer science, data science are taught as within an engineering institution, divorced from other fields. And law is taught within a law school, divorced from other fields. But we're bringing them together. And there are huge synergies. For example, tech law is going to be an unlimited horizon. We had a speaker a few weeks ago, John Mitchell, computer scientist at Stanford, who spoke to all of our first-year students in all 3 schools about blockchain. Now, you might say, well, blockchain, that's a pretty technical subject. But he was able to fire up all of the students to make them see that it applies to all fields. And our lives are going to be completely changed by Web 3.0, which will be blockchain based. So for example, for a lawyer, contracts are going to be encoded in blockchains, smart contracts. And so a lawyer who has some understanding of that is going to be much more in demand than a lawyer who says, well, you know, I don't know anything about that. You better talk to a computer scientist, because these things are going to be an integrated ecosystem. Another speaker we had from Harvard, a computer scientist he was at Harvard, he's moved to MIT, who talked about the ethics of AI, the social implications of AI, which is an exploding area that will affect everybody. Issues of privacy, issues of what is behind the algorithms that are going to be making decisions for us, that are going to be narrowing down the choices that we make. Do they embody biases and so on and so forth? All of the students in all of our schools were riveted by that. So that's a unique combination of schools. The second is that we give all of our students a broad foundation. So we have required courses called foundation courses, global challenges, frontiers, communication, critical thinking, environment, arts and literature, and the Indian Constitution, which really roots them in the largest democracy of the world. If students come out technically proficient, but they don't understand the democracy we have, then we will not have the citizenry to preserve and move forward that democracy. The third point that's unique is that some of our foundation courses are taught in what we call a colloquium style. We have the actual leaders in different fields talk directly to our students. And there are 2 foundation courses in which that happens. One is called Global Challenges, where we have a professor based in Boston, Sherman Teichman, who founded and directed the Institute for Global Leadership at Tufts University, who every week brings a different speaker, somebody who is actually on the frontier of international policy, involved in war zones, involved on refugee issues, maybe in a government, working on international issues, involved in environmental issues, ocean cleanup, human rights. And instead of the students just hearing about these things indirectly or reading about them in textbooks, they're actually hearing from the people who are on the frontiers. And all of the people we bring in give their email addresses to our students and say, email me. And our students are starting to get ideas about internships, international research projects, because they are now plugging directly into powerful international networks without stepping foot outside India. A second such course is called Frontiers, where leaders in academic disciplines in research who are absolutely at the cutting edge talk directly to our students.
Okay.
So for example, the latest discoveries in astronomy, the latest discoveries in physics, in a way that's understandable to all students, so that they have a chance to think about what major they might want to choose, which they have until their second year to decide. So those are some of the unique features that we bring.
Thank you, Dr. Varucha. And I must share that after listening to my panelists from the modern age universities, there's a feeling that I wish I was a student at this age now. I mean, there's so much happening in our universities. Dr. Vijay, one question for you. I know we are almost at the this thing. One question for you is, how does your university give industry exposure to students, especially with these programs that we are talking about? So how do we bring in the industry exposure or a hands-on experience?
We have planned with two approaches. One is we already have the services and involvement of professors of practice, because they actually are in industry, and then they have the ability to take our students back into that field. For instance, we have someone teaching statistics and data analysis, and they come from an industry, so there's an immediate connect. So that is something that we have done. And we have also, the way to do this is also have specific problems, research problems from industry. So we are working with partner industries. And I must say, a lot of startups are involved with us. There's a lot of hunger there. And Bangalore being Bangalore, there's a lot of innovation hub here. So even in our very first year, we have collaborated with about 6 startups. And some of these projects for students, right from exposure while faculty are running most of it. But for instance, a simple project on voice analytics in rural Tamil Nadu, because there's a government funded project where the rural farmers and rural folks have smartphones, but they don't have the ability to text. And so you need voice analytics systems. So these are ways where there are real problems. And to summarize very quickly with time going out, one is to get the industry into the campus, and that is how, and then to take an approach not just with internship, but for solving a real problem, and could have a little research component there. So that is the way we are trying to bring the industry, reality into the whole life cycle of the university.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. Before I ask for your closing remarks, the question that I will have for all of you, 3 of you, and Dr. Vijay, again, we're starting with you for quick words on this, is that now, when we are talking about, say there are educators listening to all of you, okay? Now, what are your few insights that you can give them, that when they are talking to students who are making these career decisions in grade 11 or 12, their subjects have already been decided, and when they're thinking about what can be shared, that we can actually motivate these young ones, these young students, to think about these programs and not be confined to the same dead beaten track.
I think exposure, as Ananya is not on the call now, but one of the things we are committed to as a university is to work with schools to provide the exposure students and teachers need. And it is a both learning experience. It's not that we come from a higher level. I don't want to give that impression. But I think universities and schools need to work together, particularly to provide a wider exposure to the kind of domains and the exciting developments that are happening. So to summarize it, I would be very happy to engage with educators to provide different kinds of exposures. When I say I don't mean I personally, but we can arrange things for greater exposure.
That's quite comforting, Dr. Vijay. Dr. Sunil Rai, if you could tell us how to motivate these young ones to think out of the box here and to look at these possibilities.
I think as I was reading in the chat that you have shared a lot of case studies with your students right through the day and they are liking it. And that has been the Indian way through Jataka stories or through Satyanarayan Katha and everywhere. So basically, uh, we have to demystify this whole logic angle attached to degree and life. And we need to tell them that, frankly speaking, now we are already thinking maybe 3 years, 4 years down the line, degrees will lose their significance. And I pray that it happens like that. Though, of course, I make my living on it today. By then, I would be retired. That's not the reason. But I think we need to actually share with them these kind of success stories that there is life beyond just these certifications. There's no logic. And I tell them that, okay, I wanted to become a doctor. Now, not the doctor that I have become now, the useless doctor. I wanted to become the useful doctor, the medical doctor, so that I could treat patients. I didn't want to join defense forces. I didn't want to join government. Three things I didn't want to do in my life at all. And I became a naval officer, and that too an engineer. So all three things were unfulfilled. I had to join the government, I had to join the defense, and I had to become an engineer. But today, when I look back, it's kind of experiences that I have gone through the National Defense Academy, the Indian Navy, and so on and so forth. If God were to come and ask me, son, I send you to the planet once again as a boy, what would you like to do? I would like to retread the same path. I would like to join the National Defense Academy. I would like to join the Indian Navy, and I would like to join this exciting world of academics. So I think children should be told that there is a planning that your parents, everybody is doing, and there's a planning that the God Almighty has already done it for you. And none of us can beat the planning of God Almighty. So believe in that planning of God Almighty and live life beautifully the way you would like to do it. And I'm sure that once we demystify this horror or the hawa, as we say, that we create, if you don't do this, this is what will happen, nothing will happen. Thank God Bill Gates dropped out and we have Microsoft. Steve Jobs dropped out and we have Apple. And there are many, many such stories. So children should be said that there's no logic to life. There is only the great thing about life is life. So please live it passionately, live it well.
Well said, Dr. Rai. Dr. Barucha, your closing remarks, please.
Thank you. Dr. Rai mentioned Steve Jobs. I often tell students and parents, everybody in the world today recognizes this interface of icons, menus, dragging, dropping, touch sensitive. This was when Steve Jobs was asked which courses in college had the most impact on your creation of Apple. He didn't say computer science. He said graphic design. He was not a computer science major. He was good at coding. As a hobby in high school, he and his friends used to do it. But he had this insight that you could combine artistic design and human interaction, where it's easy to interact with a computer almost naturally rather than having to know the syntax, and computer science. Initially, some of you may remember when he came out with the Macintosh, which was the first computer to embody a graphic user-friendly interface. The mainstream companies, IBM, all of them, industry stalwarts said, this is a toy. This is not a serious computer. And they consulted their customers. Their customers said, it's not a serious computer. We're not going to buy it. Maybe for kids. Now it is the way we live. None of us wake up in the morning or go to sleep without touching these things. I think the next big thing needs to come out of India. India has the talent, but Indians do really well abroad. We need to reform our institutional thinking and our management culture within India, in the universities, in the cultures, so that if a student comes up with an idea that might sound wild, rather than just saying, sit down, get up, shut up, keep quiet. It's not going to be on the exam. Actually listen and enable the child to take that forward. And you will see a tremendous sparking of innovation that combines technical areas with non-technical areas. These smartphones are going to be obsolete, like everything is going to be obsolete. In 20 years, we're going to look back and laugh and say, remember, we used to carry around this thing, Well, we don't know what's going to be the case in 20 years. Let 1,000 flowers bloom when our kids come up with ideas. Some of those will change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barucha. And I really want to take this opportunity to thank each one of you. Dr. Mukherjee, who had to leave, Dr. Vijayan, Dr. Barucha, Dr. Rai, thank you so much for your insights, incredible insights. And I can assure my panelists, my participants here, that with your kind of modern age universities, higher education is in safe hands. Thank you so much for giving us your precious time. Aishwarya, over to you.
I just said thank you, Parikshit, and a very big thank you to all the participants. I haven't seen such lively group in all the webinars that I had the good fortune of addressing. So your participants rocked.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. First of all, thank you so much to all our esteemed panelists for taking out time and sharing your insights on such a lovely topic. Of course, we really appreciate. And from the entire participants end, I thank you once again. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, dear participants, this is the end of day one of ICCC Foundation program. I know there are few previous participants, but thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Well, just a request to you all, tomorrow by 8:45 a.m., please join from the same link that has been shared with you all, and looking forward for the day two of ICCC program. All right, everyone, have a good day, good evening. See you tomorrow.